Hi, this is Sergeant Betsy Brantner Smith with the National Police Association, and this is the National Police Association podcast. I have such a fascinating guest today. She is, well, she was a sergeant like me, so it means she's smart and bossy and all that stuff. But she's also very, um, she's well informed. She's very sciency, which I'm fascinated by. And so she's somebody I've been following for a while, and I thought, you know what, you guys need to meet her. So Christine Burke, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Very excited. Glad to be here.
So of course I have to ask you, before we talk about anything else, why'd you become a cop?
It was by accident, actually. I um, got involved in it. I was working in a bank, and we had these officers that came in and they would talk about how wonderful it was. And I went on a ride along, and that was it. It changed for me. And at the same time, I was working actually on the wrong side in the public defender's office. My mom had suggested for me to go work for the state attorney because we always used to watch the police shows. And in the phone book, I found the P before the S, right? In the blue pages. You remember the phone book? Those of you that know the phone book. And so I actually got hired by the public defender. And I used to sit there as a paralegal and read through the cases that came in and the officers that were doing depositions. And I got really, really excited about, I want to do this. This sounds really interesting. And I went on the ride along, and that was it. I was gone. And so that's how I decided. But I originally started as a reserve officer because I said, I'm not going to be able to do this by myself, right? Driving the car, the big gun, the shotgun. No, 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 no. That is not for me. But I went through the academy, and halfway through the academy, I said, I can definitely do this and I can definitely make a difference. And like I said, that was it, much to my mom's dismay. But yeah, I just fell in love with it, and taught me things about myself, and being able to help other people. That's the main driver. My whole career has been involved in that, being able to do things for people that can't help themselves. So
How did you get interested in the investigative side of things?
as in law enforcement, you mean, or
Yes,
or
in the
uh,
law enforcement angle.
well, I just always love the cases, right? So, on patrol, we're doing, at least in my department, we were doing minor investigations. And then I always wanted to be a detective. I, maybe like you, or maybe like, your community, loved reading the crime novels. And it's just so fascinating. I'm a task-based person. I love solving puzzles. And I guess it just came naturally to me. And I, was on a department. I went out, I tested, and then luckily got promoted into the detective bureau. And that was so much fun. So much fun. It's so rewarding. I don't know. I don't think people understand how it feels to be able to provide answers to people, right? So most of them see the patrol side of it, right? Something goes wrong, we come running. But then, to save maybe a baby from a pool, or somebody choking, or a burglar is in the house. But then also on the detective side, even cold cases, warm cases, to be able to give answers and closure to the family, there's nothing like that. So I don't know. It's normal to me. I guess, if I can say that, I just always loved it. Yeah.
So explain to people what genetic genealogy is.
Oh, goodness. It is the marriage of genealogy, traditional genealogy, with science. Okay. And your community may be familiar. I know you are, with CODIS, right? So we have this great thing called CODIS, where people, we typically have to match people one to one. Okay, they take a little bit of DNA and they match it. And that means that the person has to be in the CODIS database in order for the match to come up. Much like fingerprints, right? It needs to be a same match. But in forensic genetic genealogy, we don't match one to one on the person. We match through their family. And that is why it's so incredible, because the person doesn't have to be in the database, We just have to know who their relatives are. And that's the game changer. Okay, so it takes little bits. We have little bits of DNA that are passed down from all of our ancestors, and we all share those. And I liken to it, if I may, I liken it to a blueprint, like a house blueprint. When we have a house blueprint, it talks about what the structure is going to be, what the outside's going to look like, maybe the landscaping, the roof, the colors of the paint. Okay, so that's the blueprint of the person. All right, in genetic genealogy, we get the whole genome, which is the blueprint of the person, and it tells you everything, what they're going to look like, how they're going to be built, how tall they are. And all those little bits of DNA make up the person, and we get each one of those pieces from our different ancestors, from our great grandparents, and so on. And so if I can have that little portion of that piece from your distant relative, I can put all those pieces together and find those ancestors and put them together and come up with the suspect or person of interest. It's just totally fascinating.
So the CODIS database, where do those entries, if you will, where do they explain to people where they come from?
So CODIS is different than what we use in genetic genealogy, right? So CODIS is when a person, depending on the state legislation, is when a person is arrested or convicted, right? Depending on the law, they have to take a swab and it gets put into the system. And then at the same time, from crime scenes, they take suspect profiles, some of our missing person profiles, and they put those in the CODIS database. But we have to wait. If there isn't an instant one-to-one match, nothing happens. Whereas when we use genetic genealogy, which is a totally different process, unfortunately, we got to talk money when we talk that. CODIS is great, okay, but we got the goose that laid the golden egg over here. So when we do genetic genealogy, we just take that and we start building out the family. So it doesn't have to be one-to-one. And
So
that uses
how did you get interested in this and get to the point where you're doing what you do now, which we're going to talk about next?
Yes. Well, it wasn't by choice. It was actually a random DNA test. And fortunately or unfortunately, I used to say unfortunately, I found out through DNA that I wasn't who I thought I was, and neither was my mom. I'm what's known as an NPE, not parent expected. Okay. Meaning my father was not my father biologically, and my mother's father was not hers either. So I lost, this happened in 2017. I lost 75% of my family as I knew it. And my mom was going through dementia at the time, severe dementia, and I couldn't ask her. And so that's what happened. And you don't, like, you think you know who you are, but when you lose your identity, man, that was tough for me. And also being an investigator, I'm also a private investigator, not being able to figure it out. I'm still recovering from that. Okay. And so I paid the experts and they couldn't help me. And they said, well, you just need to wait for a better match. But I had to find out who I was. And so I set about learning it. And so for about 3 years, I stomped my feet and I said, God, why would you do this to me? I didn't have a great childhood. I didn't know Burke. Okay, that's what we call bio father or birth certificate father. I didn't know him. He was never in my life. So I said, God, why would you do this to me? And then one day I said, oh, I get it now. Instead of why me, I said, why not me? Because I looked at my entire career, law enforcement trainer, detective, SART, all this stuff. And when I figured out who I had been helping people find their biological family in as little as an hour. Okay, adoptees, MPEs like me. And I said, whoo, I said something else, but I said, oh my goodness, my guys need this. Okay. And I started training them. I said, okay, I've got to get this in their hands. And that's how it came about. It was never my intention I wasn't a genealogy fan. I wasn't really a true crime fan. I was going to say it happened to me, but it happened for me. And here we are. I believe that this is my mission. This is my new mission to continue the same work, just in a different fashion.
So how can genetic genealogy, how can it help us solve, for example, cold cases?
Well, one thing I'll let you know, we have over, and I looked the other day, we have over 14,000, or let me correct that, 15,400 unidentified human remains cases across the United States. Now, I knew we had those folks, but until I got into this work, I didn't realize we had that many. Okay. So that's not even touching the cold cases, right? And those are estimated to be in the hundreds of thousands. And we have our new cases, such as some that we've recently seen. And the way that genetic genealogy is so amazing is because you can instantaneously get a lead. Because as soon as you get at least one match, you have a surname, right? So you can imagine we go to a case, we've got nothing, we've got a homicide, no video, no nothing, no witnesses, and the deceased person can't talk. The only thing that can talk is the DNA. And if we put it in CODIS and we don't get a match, we have nothing, right? We do the victimology, we do the background and everything, but if we don't have any leads, we don't have anything. But with the forensic genetic genealogy, as soon as we get the matches back, remember, CODIS has to be 1-to-1 or a very close family member. But as soon as we get the matches back, those are all relatives of the suspect. Okay, so each one is a lead, right? Think about when you worked a case and there was no solution, and if somebody said, hey, try, Jack Andrews, whatever, and it gives you something to go on. So that's how it's even if we don't build it, eventually we're able to build the tree completely down to the person of interest or the suspect. But even without that, we have new leads to go on instantaneously. I can't say amazing enough. Yes.
And that's the thing. And this type of technology, I guess, if you will, has been instrumental in some fairly infamous cases, right?
Absolutely, absolutely. And in fact, we just saw it in the Bryan Kohberger case.
Talk about that, about, because I know I've read media accounts of that don't explain it very well. Can you explain to people how this type of investigative tool really made that case?
Well, I'm not sure exactly what they were relying on, right? And we don't want a Monday morning quarterback, but it did play an integral part because they were able to narrow it down. And uh, as I was saying, even to get a lead, but in that case, they were able to narrow it down to a group of family members. I wasn't in that, so I don't know how close they originally got to Bryan. But we've heard that they went down to his father's house. They were either following him or following his father, and they were able to pull trash and confirm the match, right? So they obviously got around the family so that they know that it's maybe um, the the family of origin, or I don't want to say close family. I don't know what the next level is, but they were able to get into that closer family network, and then you work it through to figure who would be around the right age, who would be living in the right area, traditional police work. And so that's how they were able to do it. And then when they went out and got the DNA, even though it was the father, there's scientific uh, um, statistics and things that it can, with DNA, it can't be anything else, right? So we apply the science and there's your answer. So that was confirming either whether it started with the DNA to put them on him, or it started with the car, right? Because we had the things about the car and we had the things with the phone, the cell phone ping. So I'm not sure which one came before, but yes, when you get right in that family, you're looking at a suspect and you get right in that family, you're like, okay, there you go. Yeah.
So you train people how to utilize this technology or this tool Um, how do you do that? How do you pluck somebody off the street and start, start teaching them all of this? Do they have to have, a biology degree, or how complicated is it?
Oh, absolutely not. I don't have a biology degree. I don't have a big science background. It's applying the science. Okay. So it's understanding the science and applying the science. It's more tactical than theory. And anybody with a desire to learn can do it, right? I taught myself, I teach them my exact same method, right? It's the same one. I have a 48-hour case solve on a 30-year plus cold case, and it is just a repeatable, that was amazing. That was just, it's a repeatable process. How you interpret the science, how you look at what the genealogy is telling you, and how you narrow down, for lack of a better word, it could be an unknown human or your suspect pool. But no, anybody who's willing to learn and follow the process and do what the science tells you, it's like you're interpreting it. And that's it. And coming up with theories, but we love to have people. I've got all kinds of people from all walks of life, and it's amazing.
And that's the thing. You don't need to be a police officer um,
Absolutely not.
to be able to do this. And this is one of the things you and I were talking about before the show, is that because law enforcement is, let's face it, so short staffed, especially sworn personnel. Um, this is something that civilians can do, who want to be involved in law enforcement, want to be involved in investigations, and like you said, helping the community, helping solve cases. But they don't have to be a cop. They don't have to go to the police academy. They don't have to be on patrol, right? Talk about that.
Absolutely not. Well, I think maybe the public is unaware that, with these shortages that we're seeing, it takes about 3 to 5 years to actually, what I say, grow a cop. Okay. And that's a patrol officer. That's not a seasoned detective, somebody that's able to work these cases. And when I train law enforcement, because this same program is the program I train to law enforcement, I tell them, please, you've got to get a couple analysts in here, and those can be civilians that support you and build the trees and do that work while they're out doing the things that they need to do because of their sworn they have the badge because they're sworn capabilities. But no, I've had people as old as 74 and as young as 22. And as long as you have the capability and you understand it, we talk about getting prepared for court and how to develop proof. We talk about probable cause. We talk about investigative, regular homicide investigation type things, and we learn the process from start to finish. But this is a great opportunity for civilians to get involved. Maybe you've got people that said, I always wish I would have. Okay. But we've got such great skills within the community that our agencies can definitely take advantage of, and we need it. We need it because we just don't have this foreign population. It's so unfortunate, but I love it because it's, dare I say, fun. I mean, I hate to say that because law enforcement is a very serious profession, but man, it's fun and so rewarding.
What is that like, to be able to take a cold case that's a decade or two or more years old and apply this um, science to it and solve a case?
It's almost like as you were talking, I was picturing myself on the street, right, putting handcuffs on somebody, like maybe after a foot chase or something, right? You know what I'm talking about? You're like, okay, gotcha. And then I'm picturing some of my cases where I'm giving answers to the family, and it's almost unbelievable because okay, so you had this like disappearing ink or those things, right? Like it almost appears before your face. Like you're doing things, but you're not doing things. I don't know if I can explain it properly, but the person, like all of a sudden it just clicks and there's the person, and you almost don't believe it. And then you have to do a double take, and yeah, it's incredible. And then to have the family and to get the answers for the family and to get the answers for the police too, right? They're a lot of them are so beat down in the job, and the job isn't, not that I don't want to say fun, but it's not enjoyable. The reason that they got in, the passion and all this stuff, um, you know, the morale is just so down. But I don't know if I can adequately describe it. It just appears in front of your face, and you just get like a warm glow. It sounds like, I'm having a aha moment or something, but I there's no words. There's no words. Best thing ever. Best thing ever.
I love that, because it is and again, every agency, has, a list of cold cases where things have just stopped. And how how much genetic material, if you will, do you need as a cold case investigator to apply this technology to it?
My gosh. Well, I'm not the scientist, right? But I will tell you, we've got some great labs that are doing great things. And I'm glad you mentioned this, because if we have any agencies that are listening out there, the strides that we've made in technology, we are able to take, I shouldn't lump myself in there, but the labs are able to take tiny bits and amplify it and do great things with it and recover DNA from areas that we would have never thought possible. Okay. And so I also urge all the agencies, please go back and revisit these cases, even just a couple years. I had an agency, I was working a case, and they had just looked at it a couple years previously in it was 22, and I was like, no, let's go back again, let's go back again. And we were able to get DNA, usable DNA, for forensic genetic genealogy. So you just can't give up, right? I mean, that's the cop spirit, never give up. And they're able to do amazing things. So keep testing, keep testing, keep testing. And yes, I mean, the answers are there. Even if we just get one match with one surname, which is not, like a last name, that's huge. And so,
And that's
yeah.
the thing, is just to even get that, that's the genealogy part of it, right? Where
Well, the
even if,
match, right? Yeah.
yeah, even if you
Yeah,
don't get that one-on-one match,
correct.
you can get something that then a traditional investigator can take and move forward with, correct?
Absolutely. So let's just say, I mean, when we put the DNA in, we can get anything from hundreds of matches to thousands of matches. Okay. And then we apply the science to it. The science designates relationships. So if you're an investigator and I come to you and I say, hey, we don't know who this suspect is, but this person, like this gal right here, they share like a great great grandparent or something, and we can build out the family tree. That's huge, because we know who the family is. And that, right, like, that's when we have nothing, that's huge, that's something to go on. Let alone then we build out all those matches, and we build the complete family, and we apply the science and all that stuff, and then we narrow it down to one person. So there's no way there's not a win. Okay, first out of the gate with just a name, like, it's amazing. There's no way it's not a win. You always have a lead, and I believe you can always narrow it down to a person of interest, right? Then you start looking at who was where when, right? Who was near the scene of the crime, and that sort of stuff. Yeah,
It
yeah.
really is
Everybody's got to be doing it.
it's the perfect marriage of science and technology, and including genealogy and traditional investigative methods. And I love that you're so passionate about it. Where can people find out more about you and your trainings? Where can they follow you on social media? Give us all of it.
So they can go to my website, christineburke.com, ChristineBurke.com. And they can also reach out to me if they want more information. I've got training starting in January. for both sides, law enforcement and civilians. And I'm on X mostly. I am on Instagram. I'm a little bit on TikTok, but X is usually the social media that you can find me in, or LinkedIn if you'd like to connect if you're a professional. And I'd love to hear from everybody. However I can help, even people if they've got some, as I refer to it, DNA drama, they've got some family mystery that they can't solve. I would love to be able to help them.
And I think that's another extraordinary part of this piece, because I think as DNA technology continues and people are more interested in that and their own genealogy, that people are really digging into the past and getting more and more fascinated with their own background, their own family, and that's one of the other things that I love that you're helping people do, and it's it's such an important role. I hope people reach out to you. And Christine, I can't thank you enough for spending time with us today. And if you'd like more information about the National Police Association, you can visit us at nationalpolice.org.
Every day, the brave men and women of law enforcement put their lives on the line to keep us safe. But they need our help to continue their mission. Activist politicians, progressive prosecutors, the ACLU, and the rest of the anti-police forces receive millions in donations from extremist pro-criminal elements like George Soros and woke corporations. The National Police Association is fighting them in courts around the country, including the United States Supreme Court, defending officers who are being attacked for doing their jobs. Additionally, the National Police Association works year-round to pass tough-on-crime legislation to put and keep criminals behind bars. Consider going to nationalpolice.org and donating to keep us in the fight. Together we can win. That is nationalpolice.org.